All right, next item is life safety items, capital improvements.
I would imagine at this time the Facilities Committee would like to report out. I also have Mary Ann, I sent you a PDF, if you could put that up briefly.
Gee, is it?
There's a box on the bottom right, Mary Ann, if you could scroll down so that that's visible. What I've been doing is keeping a running tab on concerns that we've heard from residents in regards to some of the capital improvements and facility changes that we have to look at. One of those being the parking additions. So these are some additional comments that we did receive from community members on the June 24th meeting. Most of them were repetitive of what we had heard in the past in regards to student safety, traffic flow, green space, for community use, drainage, impact on local water collection and flooding, life safety versus capital improvements. I think we addressed a lot of that. We did not receive a lot of feedback once we went through a thorough presentation of our life safety needs and some of the other needs with roofs and the stadium and the track and the tennis courts. Timeline and expectations, there's still questions out there. Parking lot security and lighting. There was some questions in regards to policing what we currently have and how would we police it in the future. Permeable pavers, community participation, finance. There were some questions in regards to will permits be sold to offset the cost? Will fees be included in the rental agreements to offset the cost of some of the financing that it would cost to possibly build a parking lot? Parking south of RB campus. This was a question or a comment that was submitted on June 24th in regards to the front easement in front of the RB campus on Ridgewood Road. That property currently belongs to the village of Riverside. After the sidewalk, when you immediately step out of the high school, that is the village of Riverside's property, but I did submit a written request to find out if that's something that would be available for sale. In the event of looking for off-curb parking or off-street parking at the front of the school. That was one of the questions community members had asked us to investigate. And then there were concerns from tennis parents at that meeting about moving the tennis program off-site and using the current footprint of the tennis courts to possibly build a parking lot. And I'll defer to the board members to provide a summary.
First, I would let everybody, well, Ed and Matt were also at the meeting, so they saw at least part of it. We actually had a bigger crowd that day than we have today, to give you an idea. And people were very passionate. I mean, Kevin covered the main concerns. I guess I would, and it's not anything substantially different than we've heard in emails, but the people that live right here would like not to see the green space change and not have additional parking. We tried to explain to people that we represent the whole district. I saw today in an email or something you sent us, we have 45 kids on a waiting list for parking. And, although people are passionate, we try to get the message across. Everybody doesn't live in Hollywood. We have kids in North Riverside that live, probably a couple miles from the school. They might be in sports or whatever. But there seemed to be a bit of a misunderstanding that we're concerned about parking because we rent the building out, as opposed to the needs we have ourselves for our own sporting events, our parent-teacher conference, and the students and teachers that we have here. And again, I think that Kevin portrayed it pretty well. I'll go to actually some people suggested we skip the part east of Golf Road because they would agree that that's okay. There wasn't very much concern raised about life safety or the cost. I'm not saying there aren't some people that have the concern, but it wasn't highlighted. As far as the parking, we got everything. Somebody thought we should tear the whole school down. So it's hard to get the message across because when we explain that we don't own the land on either side of the building and we're working with as much as we can with the local. When I say we, Kevin's been doing it for a couple of years. At the end of the meeting, somebody still suggested we move the football stadium onto the baseball fields. Somebody else suggested we pave the baseball fields, which of course we explained neither one of those are a viable alternative. Somebody asked a good question, could we put parking in front? relatively confident that Riverside's gonna say, no, you're not gonna turn our green space into parking there. But it seemed to me there was some acknowledgement, they appeared to be supportive of the idea that Kevin had, if we can get some parking for a fire lane right along the building, that wasn't a great concern of the people that were there. So, you know, I think we're gonna have, it's like everything else, you have to keep getting your message across, we have to keep considering the alternatives people have, but, you know, we also have to do what's best for the district. For instance, I pointed out to Kevin, to me, which I wasn't aware of, you know, we've had District 96, and a lot of the parents at Hollywood talk about how we don't need the parking. Well, we give 12 of our parking spaces to District 96, which I didn't find out till recently. So, you know, those are the kind of things we have to evaluate in the analysis also. On the tennis court, the parents and the captain of the tennis team came too, to speak on behalf of the tennis, and obviously the tennis families are concerned that if we move the tennis courts to North Riverside, you know, it's more of a burden on them, and they might lose some players. And you know, we said we'd rather not move anything. We wish we had nothing off the campus, but we have to consider it as an alternative because of the other issues that we have to weigh. So, you know, I will say it seemed to me one of the significant follow-ups that the people present wanted was more like the representative came today. You know, they'd rather hear directly from the county and the Forest Preserve District instead of us kind of filtering what they said. We did say we'd ask again, but we asked before, and we obviously can't make people come. And you know, there is a bit of a concern too that amongst, you know, I talked to Kevin a little bit about it, not other people, but the county and the Forest Preserve District feel like they're making a pretty big accommodation for us because it's their land. So we have to also, you know, as a group, you know, work with the constituents and make sure that we're tempered in whatever approach we take with the county, because we don't want to have them say, you know, forget you, we don't have to give you a fire lane. So, you know, it's just something we have to consider, and we hope the people consider that. But we did reach out, or I think we did, Kevin, or we are going to reach out and see if the Forest Preserve District representative and the county representative will come to the next meeting. We did say we would have a meeting sometime in late July or August, and we did say that we would have Carrie, who's our architect, everybody's met Carrie, come. Some people asked whether we'd have the engineer come. I said we'd consider that if we thought it was worthwhile. We obviously have to pay people to come to our meetings, so I'm not sure it's necessary, but we should consider it.
That was a very good summary. There's no doubt there was passionate opposition to the parking lot, but I think a lot of that was placed on the original proposal, where the basically our track backyard where they use the discus throw and the shot put would also be converted into a parking lot. I hope people appreciate, you know, Kevin's effort to maybe, if we do build the parking lot, it would only be on the footprint of the tennis court. We'd preserve that green space in some capacity. So the majority of the concerns about the parking lot being right adjacent to the school, I think, are lessened to a great degree. Certainly not alleviated, but I think Kevin's effort to get the fire lane would be very important, I think, as the project goes forward, and I hope that's successful. One other thing, some parents, I think it was from the soccer team, the girls' soccer team was concerned about, you know, what happens when we do this project, and that's one thing we'll have to keep in mind about scheduling and, you know, as we do the work on the stadium and the track and the field, how it's going to affect our sports programs. We'll certainly keep that in mind.
Any questions to the facility committee?